Duane, it's all you. We're ready for you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Um, so yeah, you can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Duane Theleman. I'm a senior project manager with Binghamton University in their information technology services area. And we've been on Servicenow for a few years. I'll just get started. I think I'll probably, just to set a little expectation, I'll be able to probably breeze through a lot of my slides pretty quickly, but feel free to ask questions if you want in the meantime. But at the end, I figured I'd jump over into our test system and demo how we're using it and go from there. So just a little bit about me. I'm a SUNY product as well. Graduated from University of Albany a couple of years ago. I didn't feel that old until I saw Variah was graduated 20 years after I did. So thanks for that. I started my career in telecommunications. I worked for about 13 years for a independent telephone company, and at the tail end of that tenure was where I got my start in project management. From there, I moved to a small IT firm that did systems integration, application development, infrastructure support. Learned a lot about IT from a lot of smarter people than I am. Then I went from there into healthcare IT, where I was a project manager, and then been here at Binghamton University for about 3.5 years. So again, started project management back in 2002. Here's my plug for Project Management Institute, or PMI. I've been a member since September of 2009. I'm currently on the local chapter board. So if you're not a member, consider it. If you have a local chapter, consider it. I think it's a good way to talk to others that are in the project management field, even if it's not your title.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Okay.
We aren't. I don't know if you're supposed to be presenting slides or not, but we're not seeing anything.
You're not.
We're just seeing your Word document and Zoom. I didn't know if you were showing slides.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shared the wrong.
That's okay.
Let me.
That's okay.
I was thinking I was sharing the other screen, but I think my numbering is out of whack. No, I gotta go to this one. Sorry.
You're fine.
Is that better?
Not yet. We're still just saying your name.
Did that switch?
Nope, we're not seeing anything, just your name.
Just before the break, you had it up. I saw the PowerPoint.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's good we're recording this. So. So you were seeing it on this screen, so why don't we go over here? Oh, because I have to click share once I change it, that's why. Okay. How about now?
There we go.
Jeez.
There we go. Now we see it. Thank you.
Ta-da!
That's what happens when you have multiple screens. You don't know which one's which.
That's common with
Yeah. Okay, so this was a little bit about me. So yeah, I've been here about 3.5 years at Binghamton University. So it was kind of chuckled to myself when Krista was giving the project management maturity talk this morning, and I had this already in my my presentation today. So I wanted to at least give people a sense of where we started, where I think we're at. I think I answered the poll that we're in level 3. I'd say we're in the very, very low level 3. When I gave this presentation a couple of years ago at STC, I think we were in number 2 because we were, I had just been hired and we kind of had a PMO of 1, that being me. we've now doubled in size, so I do have another project manager working with me, so that's exciting. But what I'll show you here is a little bit about how we're using ServiceNow. There's a lot of capabilities in ServiceNow that we're not mature enough to use yet. We're doing it slowly, and that culture changes. It does take time. So, so as I said, I think it's exactly 3 years this month where we went live with ServiceNow, and we primarily did ServiceNow to replace our help desk ticketing system for IT service management, so incidents and problems. We got started with the PPM portion in January of 2017. So you'll get a little bit of a flavor of that, but the demand, which is the project request or intake portion of it, our portfolios, and then using it for project management. So kind of slow to get started, and we're continuing to look at it and see where we can take a little more on and do a little bit more with it. Since we went live, we've also added what we call IT self-service, which is their service portal, which is kind of an externally facing where people can log tickets, and we have our ITS project request form out there, which I'll show you. We've added requests that people can submit. We do customer satisfaction surveys through it. We have a knowledge base. We've kind of built out a really good change management using that in ServiceNow. And then in terms of project management, in areas that we're looking to kind of expand is obviously managing projects within ServiceNow with Gantt charts and tasks and things like that. But also we're investigating how we can use kind of cost management and resource management to kind of estimate hours and get a feel for how much capacity we have and things like that. But we're really just in the investigative stage of that. In terms of project governance, we do, like I said, we do have a project intake process where they fill out a project request form. It gets submitted. Within ITS, we review that and kind of make sure that we have enough information to create a project. If there's questions, we go back to the requester and flesh that out. And then once it's approved, we create the project in ServiceNow and then kind of monitor it from there. We are in the process of setting up a separate project governance committee, and I'll show you a reason why we're doing that. But that's going to consist of kind of VP and provost level people from the campus representing academic affairs, student affairs, division of research, and division of operations. And we really need that kind of, we're getting to a point where we have more projects than we're able to do. So we need that additional level to review and kind of give guidance and help us prioritize which projects are most important. So that's in the process of getting developed and stood up right now. So I'll breeze through these because they're really just kind of snapshots, but this is, and then I'll show you live what they look like and kind of go through actually submitting some. We do have a project request form, and it's a little cut off, so there's a little bit more there that gets submitted, which creates in ServiceNow language a demand. That information is kind of, we use it to categorize it. So we have business driver and project type that we add, and then we assign it to a portfolio. And the portfolio, we have it split up within the different areas within ITS. Basically, 5 areas that we have directors. Those are the portfolios. And then the other thing we've added is we assign it to an administrative office. So if it's a division of academic affairs project request, we assign it to that. So we can kind of do some reporting and see how many projects we're doing for each of the areas across campus. Once the demand is approved and a project is created, this is just a snapshot of a project in there, and you can see that you can attach documents here. operations and infrastructure team is one of the groups that's kind of at the forefront of utilizing project management and ServiceNow, or project management within ServiceNow. So they're usually a good one to kind of show. In this instance, it's a construction renovation project, and they'll get quotes for equipment and do estimations and things like that. So they're using it to kind of store their documents so they have it all in one place. So this, I can show you this probably easier, but these are the different areas. So portfolio wise within ITS, we have enterprise systems and applications, operations and infrastructure, our information security, technology support services, and then kind of a catch-all of ITS if it crosses multiple areas. And we also have an ITS administration group that projects fall under, and that would fall under ITS category. These are the administrative offices across campus, and then our business drivers and project types that we assign just to kind of categorize and be able to report on what types of projects we're doing. The different project states are, they could be pending, usually means that they're awaiting resources to be able to begin the project. Work in progress. These ones in bold are ones that are custom states that we added. Awaiting UAT, user acceptance testing, was a big one because we would kind of take on the project, complete the project from our standpoint, turn it back to the customer and say, okay, do your testing and make sure it meets what you needed. And in some instances, it may sit there for months. So we wanted something to show that, we did our part, and it's now with the end user to kind of test it and sign off. PF planning is for those construction renovation projects where physical facilities. Same idea is that, we may do some preliminary estimations and work, and then turn it back to physical facilities, and they do their planning process before they go out to bid and so on. So we kind of wanted a state that would kind of show where it is in the process, and that the reason that it's a 2 or 3 year long project for some of these construction renovations, because from inception to actually breaking ground and completing the work, it takes quite a while, and there's a big portion of that is in the hands of physical facilities. And then again, awaiting user action might be the same idea. If there's decision that needs to be made, we're waiting for feedback from an end user, that kind of thing. We have a state for that. And then a couple of other big things that we're doing is trying to estimate a planned end date, and then throughout the project do a % complete, so we can get a gauge on where it is in the process. So before I came here, each of the different areas within ITS were pretty much kind of managing their own projects in their own way. Some were using Trello, some were using Basecamp, some were using a spreadsheet or whiteboard. So there was no single view of the projects that were going on. So the first benefit that we got was at least having one place where projects were entered. You can do filtering and sorting and reporting on these. But this was the first time that all projects were kind of in one place, and starting to provide some of that transparency to be able to see what's going on. This I'll show kind of at the end, but this is, I mentioned the project governance and standing up a project governance committee to help us kind of prioritize. This is a fairly recent screenshot, so the numbers are pretty up to date, but I'll go from the bottom up on this left-hand side. But in the first full fiscal year of using ServiceNow for project management, or PPM, we received 111 project requests. The second full fiscal year jumped to 179. So you can see a real need for help in evaluating those and helping prioritize what projects we're taking on and which ones take priority. And as of this fiscal year, we've already gotten 58. I think that's over 60 now. When I'll show you the live version. So it looks like you know, if these trends continue, it looks like we're kind of in the 90 to 100 projects that we can close in a fiscal year. Again, that depends on the type of project as well. But, you know, we kind of, when we're getting that many requests and can only fit in so much, we need some help in prioritizing those projects. So this is just a dashboard that I've done, and I'll show you. It'll I think look a little better when we show you live. So I'm gonna make sure this comes up. Can you see that now?
IT self-service?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So this is our self-service portal. Servicenow calls it their service portal. We didn't want another portal besides the portal that we use, so we rebranded it kind of IT self-service. So this is a place where you don't have to have a ServiceNow license to be able to get here and get some help, look at some knowledge-based articles, make a request, things like that. So, but from a project request standpoint, this is one of the starting points that you can go to submit a project request. And that always times out. And hopefully it moves along pretty well. Sometimes our test system's a little slow, but that's normal. So this defaults to me because I'm logged into ServiceNow. If it was someone else, it would obviously default to them. And I have it over in a Word doc, some specific information. This was one of the well done project requests that we received. So I went back and it stuck in my mind. So I went back and grabbed the information so I could kind of show you now. But again, 2 required fields. It needs to at least have a project name and a description. Obviously, the more description that we can get, the better. But sometimes it's not as filled out as we'd like. So we do have to kind of reach out to them and do some more information gathering at times. So again, just trying to gather what information we can in terms of the need, identify some objectives, some benefits and risks. This is hopefully gathering that upfront information that will help us kind of understand the nature of the project, what the benefits are, what the risks are, and then go from there. A little bit of a sizing, you know, how many users does it affect? If it's something that's going to go campus wide, then, you know, we're going to have a large group there. I'm going to do this one to the end of January. Any questions on the intake form at the moment?
Yes, this is Kay Watkins from Empire State College. Do you, how difficult was it for you to create this form in ServiceNow? Did you have to have like a ServiceNow administrator do this work for you, or were you able to do it without that kind of knowledge or access?
We actually, be honest, we worked with a third-party vendor to implement our ServiceNow instance, and we did this right up front. So we had our partner help us develop this. To be honest, I don't know how difficult it would be to do it ourselves. I would suspect that you would need a ServiceNow administrator or that level of person to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, it's Krista from iTech. This form that Duane is showing us is somewhat similar to the out-of-the-box version that we use.
Okay.
Eric Krasinski in our office did some modifications, like label changes.
Yeah. Yeah, they do have some
crazy
box functionality, and you know, we just happen to be in a position working with the vendor that helped us stand this up, that we kind of offshot that to them. So once that's submitted, you can see that it creates that demand, and then that's in the system. So I'm just gonna hop over in here. I've got some shortcuts here. And some of this stuff, we haven't updated our test system, so some of it's pretty old. But here's the one that we just entered. It assigns it a demand number. And then you can see all the information that we entered in there is here. Most of it is over in the Notes tab, but it comes in as a work note. So everything that was in that initial form is captured, and then there's a history of that. We do have email notifications that go out. So as a submitter, I get an email that lets them know that we received it, and that sets a little bit of an expectation that we meet every couple of weeks, and if there's questions, we'll reach out, and it gives them an email address that they can reach out to if they have questions in the meantime, so they're not kind of in limbo. So this, we categorize, again, the business driver and the project type primarily for, reporting purposes, so we know what kind of projects we're working on. And then we assign it to one of those areas within ITS. This one falls under academic affairs, and then we can move it into the next area, next part of the process. I was going to show you some of the email notifications that we set up. So when that project request is submitted, this is the email that goes out to the person that submitted it. And really this down here, the subject and body is, your Binghamton ITS project request has been received. Thank you for submitting it. If you have any, so it sets some expectations that we meet every couple of weeks to review these. We'll probably have to update this once the governance committee kind of comes into play, because they're planning to meet only once a quarter. So we've got a little bit of work to communicate that out and set some different expectations, potentially some different expectations. Again, an email address they can reach out to that goes to the PMO. Once that is done, and actually once the categorization that we did is done, another email goes to the project portfolio manager, which is basically the director over whichever group this gets assigned to. And we've just implemented that recently. So that automates kind of a process that we were doing where we would kind of categorize that and then email them separately and say, hey, you've got another demand that you need to kind of take a look at and do some estimations and things like that. So this now automatically out of Servicenow, once that's categorized, sends that to the portfolio manager. It gives them the name of the project. They can click here to link, and by clicking that would launch the actual demand record. And then right now we're capturing some estimation information in just a Google Doc, trying to keep it simple so people kind of will use it, identifying who potentially would be working on it, if they know when they'd be able to start on it, and then based on how many hours they think it's going to take, and a duration, when they think they could end, complete it if they start, what types of skill sets they might need, if we need a programmer, a DBA, et cetera. So we're capturing that in just a Google Doc. And we're looking at ways to kind of use resource management within ServiceNow to capture that information and do a little better capacity planning. So once that's done and linked, you can link that here. Copy the. So a lot of our documentation is meant to be out in Google shared drives. So this is one way we can just link out of the record to either the Google Drive or this, in this instance, the actual demand information worksheet. So that gets captured in there. And like I said, you can attach documents in here to the record. So once that's in a screening state, ITS senior staff reviews these, you know, takes a look at it. If it's approved, right now we just kind of, if it's approved, we move it over and create the project. Once the governance committee gets involved, we're going to move it into a qualified state. And then those are the ones that will be in a state where the committee needs to review. But in the end, whether it's through the governance committee or through ITS senior staff, once that project is approved, we create a new project here. Once you click to create the new project, you'll see it's created a project and assign it a number. You can click here and launch it. And then the kind of the project management piece of things can get started. Project manager might not be me. So you can recategorize that. We added this, a goal piece, which links back to our IT strategic plan. So if there's certain areas that the project touches on, so for say student success and student learning, whatever, you can add those categories. The assigned to field is primarily meant for who the technical lead is. So that would be the technical lead, and you can add additional people to that. You can even ask, we haven't done this too much, but even you can add an external email address. So if someone across campus is not a ServiceNow user or have a license, you can actually add them here. And we do have notifications. So if a note is added, a work note is added, an email goes out with the details of that. So you can kind of use that as a communication tool. Same thing with the watch list. You may not be assigned to a project, but you want, maybe I'll want to stay in the loop on things. And I can add myself to the watch list. And then when those work notes get added, I can get an email with updates that way. Like I said, there's a number of things that we're not necessarily using yet. As you can see, there's all kinds of project management wise things that you can track within ServiceNow. We're looking at the resource plan. We've toyed around a little bit with the status reporting, but not to any great length. You can track risks, issues, any decisions that are made or actions needed, project change requests. All these things are in our hopefully to-do list at some point down the line, but maturity-wise, we're still working our way there. Any questions at the moment?
Hi, this is Kay again. I have a couple.
Sure.
Because we're really interested in this. That's why I'm really thinking about this for us. So is there any place where you capture, I mean, one of the things that we were looking at was if somebody put in a request, but there wasn't any funding to go along with that request, there was going to be kind of, I don't want to say a stop, but we were, so is there any place where you capture whether this project is something they want, but they don't have money for, or they want and they do have money for?
When we submit when we ask for the project request form, I don't know, I may have glossed over it, but there was a field where we ask if there is funding for it.
Okay.
It doesn't really mean they could say they do, but they may not at this point. I think that's part of our maturity and growth. But, you know, we're also trying to kind of readjust people to, you know, get the executive buy-in so that any project request that's coming in should have kind of been run up their area first, and they're known so they don't get you know, kind of projects that people don't know about within their division. So but this is where we capture whether there is and whether there isn't. If they hit yes, then they have to put in an amount. So
what about project schedules? Do you still use like Microsoft Project or something like that to put in your milestones or your activities?
Some are using it within ServiceNow. Some do it with, you know, something like Microsoft Project if they have some history with that or some comfort level with that. We're not really pushing it too much. I'd say that our operations and infrastructure team, the ones that do those construction renovation projects, they're the ones that are using it most.
Right.
And that was another thing I was going to show you is you can save that, but you can go to the planning console, which is kind of gives that Microsoft project look and feel, and add tasks here individually, things like that. You can set up templates, which I was going to do. So let me see if I can do that real quick. You can apply a template. I'm going to back out real quick and then go back into it because it should have a link. Actually, I want to go here. So this is a list view of all the projects. Just another way to sort. You can, you know, here it's by the created date. You can sort by name, number. You can filter out certain things. So if you want to kind of whittle down to see what you're looking for, it's once you get used to it, it's pretty helpful and intuitive. Or I wouldn't say it's intuitive, but once you get used to it, you can navigate pretty easily to find what you're looking for. Yeah, I think I updated something, so I don't have the ability to apply a template. Unless Krista, do you know how to do that? Do that once that link's
I don't off the top of my head, Duane, sorry.
That's all right.
But what you're looking, it sounds like what you're looking for, Kay, is kind of a Gantt chart looking thing, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And I was just more curious as to what your normal practice would be. Would it be to try to track within ServiceNow, or would you still use another tool to supplement that kind of?
Yeah, I think we're kind of riding both sides. But here, that operations and infrastructure team, they're ones that we did set up a template for. I won't show you theirs just because it's it's a little elaborate, but I did have this set up for today to do. So you can apply a template, and once you do that,
Okay, we at iTech, everything is contained in ServiceNow projects now. We're not straddling anything anymore. We used to be when we had AppTask, but now we're 100%.
Yeah. Okay. So this gives you an idea. Once you apply that template, you could do that. But you could build this out step by step if you wanted to as well, adding tasks. Much like kind of Microsoft Project, you can indent and outdent different tasks and things like that. So, but it does have the Gantt chart view and the ability to do that.
Duane, Samantha, you're going to have a question.
I'm sorry?
Duane, Samantha, you're going to repeat the question?
Yeah, well, you're a little muffled there. Can you get a little clearer?
Can you hear me? Samantha here.
Oh, hey, Samantha.
Hey, Duane, I was just, can you hear me properly now?
Yep.
Okay. Duane, I was wondering, in this tool that you have, if you go back to the typical PMP certification, initiate, plan, execute, control, close, do you have a sort of a workflow that this is what you should in the software tool that we have and then upload templates somewhere like you have to do this. I see this tool that you are using as it has some parts of it, but is it something that you're trained on, or does it have the functionality that you can go through the whole process of an initiation, planning, and put in all the documents that we talk about in the PMP certifications?
I don't know if it does out of the box have that capability, but it's something that we're still kind of changing the culture and getting the buy-in and acceptance to do proper project management. So I think it'll be good to get there. It's just taking a little longer than we want. And I'd be happy to show you sometime, what is there and what some of the things that we can do. Investigate some of that. I think that might be helpful, especially with your background.
Thanks, Duane. I'll come over one day. I have wanted to come and see it, but I didn't have the time, but I'll come over. Thank you so much, Duane.
Okay.
Any other questions?
The only other thing I was going to do if there, fire out any other questions. This is our production system, so I was going to show you a little bit live just because of the functionalities in the test system, but it's not as up to date as production, of course. So again, these are the tickers kind of tallying project requests received, what we've closed, what projects we have on hold, active projects, and those pending. So these are just little widgets that Servicenow has, and I've created this, and you can present these in bar charts or pie charts, however you want. And this is just something that we've created to be able to do that. And the nice thing about this is by clicking on the numbers themselves, it'll launch all those active projects in a list view. And then, so if I'm Mike Hisney, I might want to take a look at all of those projects within my area. So I want to show those for enterprise systems and applications, and then I can just whittle that down to that. But it's kind of a starting place from a project management standpoint where they could go to launch and gather more information specific to what they're looking for. On the right here, this is a big one. Obviously, we've got some that have gone past their planned end date. So this one, it gets looked at quite a bit when that number starts to grow. It might be just a matter of needing to update projects or things have changed, whatever the case may be. But if you click on the bar chart itself too, you can kind of drill down and see which ones are late. So these are under different people within those areas. So you can get a little view of what's late and then maybe have a conversation.
Duane, who is the audience that sees this dashboard?
This is primarily within ITS. I guess anyone with any licensed user within ITS could get to this, but primarily it's the directors and assistant directors that are looking at that type of stuff who might have purview over certain projects within their area.
This is Kay again. Do you put all your projects, regardless of size, into this, or is there a threshold?
We don't necessarily have a threshold that we go by, but I think that's part of the reason for the increase in project requests received, is just because part of that culture was, a lot of times people would call individuals and say, hey, I need this work done. In the past, they may have either tracked it on their own or maybe not at all. So at least we've gotten people, when they get a call from an end user that they need some work done, I'll say, well, I need you to submit a project request, and they'll direct them there and it'll get submitted. So I think that's part of the reason that we've seen an uptick in those, but it's also a workload thing as well.
I can see where it'd be a real benefit to track some. I mean, we have some projects that don't have a lot of people, that don't really cost anything but time and resources, time and people. But it's really nice to be able to track what the status is, because as you pointed out, sometimes it can get stalled for so many different reasons, and if nobody is tracking it,
Right.
then there's this like phone call, email, what's going on, where's it at? I could see it being a real benefit to even smaller.
Yeah. And to some degree, we're still kind of doing that manually within each area. They have one place to go to capture, to see all of that information, but there is still some manual stuff that we're hoping to mature a little more and utilize the tool a little more and continue to grow with it.
Tina, you had a question?
Yeah, Duane, I was wondering, how do you guys differentiate or help your end users determine what should be like just a regular support ticket versus what's considered a project?
That's a good question. I think that's a little more of that evaluation process during the demand phase. During that conversation, if something gets submitted and we're starting to do a little bit better job of that upfront investigative work and estimating and things like that. So it's that conversation with the end user as to understand fully what they're looking for, and then getting a handle on what we think it'll take. And if it takes, a matter of 20 hours or something like that, we may not do a project with it. But it's really that conversation with the end user and probably the technical person who might work on or do the work.
So are you having end users try to go to this portal and submit before talking to somebody, or like do they talk to somebody and then you say, like you said before, I'm going to need you to go submit this form after we've discussed it? How does it normally go for you guys?
Right now, it's a little of both.
Okay.
Yeah, some people who have that relationship with an end user, they'll get a call, or they support a particular area, they know who to contact within ITS, and they'll say, "Oh, submit a project request," and it'll get get the process started. But
Gotcha.
we also get some from without any conversation up front. So.
Right. This will be the first contact for some stuff.
Right.
And when you do, if you evaluate them and you determine, oh, this really isn't a project, we can take care of this, do you have the ability in Servicenow to move it, or do you just copy and paste it and make a new, a service ticket, so to speak, instead, or vice versa? If a service ticket comes in, you're like, whoa, this is a project, we need to put this in the project section.
Right. That may be possible within Servicenow. I'm not sure, and I mean, we don't do that. We don't have that link.
Okay.
Established right now. We would have to create a separate one.
Yeah, manually. All right.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. If anyone has any other
I believe at iTech we do have the ability to convert it to either a change item or a RITM, and I'm pretty certain that's a configuration item, so it's not something you have to pay somebody to bill. I think it's
and we're not, because we're not using ServiceNow to its fullest capabilities within PPM. I saw Mariah's talk about the pros and cons. I mean, it's hard to do pros and cons when you're not fully using the tool to its full ability. So, but I would say that one con is kind of needing to kind of have a ServiceNow administrator. It is pretty heavy and not easy to kind of do some things without an administrator that can kind of dive in and do a little more digging and development work or scripting and things like that.
It is actually its own platform.
Yeah.
It really is.
But if anyone has any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. Be happy to kind of talk one-on-one, help you out in any way that I can.
Well, thank you very much, Duane. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. We've got another presentation